In the great hall of Ziliara, cold winds moved through golden pillars. Princess Lyri stood alone, her small frame almost hidden in her flowing silver robes. She was only 3 feet tall, with glowing blue eyes and silver hair that shimmered like the stars, but no one looked at her with respect. They only saw a weak little girl. Another alien prince turned away from her throne and left without a word. He was the 7th one this season. Each one had rejected her, just like the last 2. Small One had said, "Too strange," said another. Some just laughed, some didn't even speak. They all said the same thing in different ways. She was not worth the bond, not worth the risk. Lyri looked at the floor and held her breath. She could not cry, not here, not in front of the council. The Grand Speaker, an old alien with golden armor and sharp green eyes, stood beside her. "Princess," he said softly, "we are running out of time." She nodded slowly. Her voice quiet. "I know." Zeliara was a small planet, rich in crystals and ancient power. But now, larger empires looked at it like a ripe fruit, ready to be stolen, without a strong alliance, without a bondmate from another royal house. They would be crushed. The bond was not just marriage, it was a mix of politics, power, and blood. It made 2 worlds one, and gave both protection. But Lyri had no partner, no protection, and soon no planet. "Is there no one left?" she whispered. The Grand Speaker hesitated, then said something that made the whole room silent. "There's one more," he said, "but it is unthinkable." Lyri turned to him. "Who?" "A human," he said quietly. Gasps filled the room and a few nobles laughed openly. "Impossible," said one. "They are savages." "Animals with machines," said another. Lyri didn't speak, her mind already racing. She had heard stories of Earth, a blue world full of war and dreams. Humans were not part of the Galactic Union. They were seen as young, wild, and dangerous. But they were also brave, and sometimes that's all that matters. "Where is he?" she asked. The Grand Speaker raised one brow. "You are serious?" "Yes," she said, standing taller. "Find him, far away on the other side of the galaxy." Earth spun quietly under a silver moon in a small forest outside a dusty town. A man named Jacob was fixing his truck. He lived a quiet life, away from the city, away from noise. His dog, Max, barked at the stars above as if he knew something was coming. Suddenly, the sky flashed. A strange light, like a falling star, broke through the clouds. Jacob stood up, wiping oil from his hands, and stared at the light. It moved too slow for a meteor, too smooth for a plane. Then it disappeared behind the hills, and the forest went silent. He didn't know it yet. But that light was not from Earth, and it was coming for him back on Ziliara. Lyri sat alone in the crystal garden, her fingers touching the edge of a flower that glowed in the moonlight. "I don't even know what he looks like," she said softly. The Grand Speaker stepped beside her. "He may not accept." "I know," she said. "But he is my last hope, far across the stars." A ship landed in secret, hidden by trees. At night inside, a small figure watched Earth's sky with wonder. The mission had begun. The princess had made her choice. And the galaxy would never be the same, because one human, just one, could change everything. The wind blew softly through the pine trees. It was past midnight in a quiet town called Clearidge. People were asleep, unaware that something not of this earth had just arrived. Jacob Hale wasn't asleep. He never slept early, not since the accident 2 years ago. He used to be an engineer for the military, but now he fixed old cars and lived alone. No friends, no family, just him, his dog Max, and a garage full of tools and rust. That night, he stood outside his workshop drinking cheap coffee. Max barked once, then twice, staring at the forest behind the house. Jacob turned and saw a soft blue glow behind the trees. It flickered, then vanished. Another drone crash. He muttered. Still, curiosity pushed him to grab a flashlight and head into the woods. The deeper he walked, the stranger the forest felt. The air was warm, but his skin had goosebumps. Then he saw it, a strange, round craft, half buried in the ground, glowing softly like moonlight. It wasn't big, maybe the size of a car, but it hummed like it was alive. Jacob stepped closer, heart pounding. He reached out and touched the surface, which felt smooth, but not like metal, more like glass and skin at the same time. Suddenly, the hatch hissed open, smoke poured out, and a figure stepped into the light. It was small, barely up to his chest, silver hair, glowing blue eyes, thin arms wrapped in cloth. Jacob froze. Max growled. The creature stared at him, then spoke in a soft, strange voice. "Are you Jacob Hale?" He stepped back. "Who the hell are you?" The figure held out a crystal disc that lit up and projected a hologram. It showed images of stars, galaxies, and finally her face. "I am Leary," she said slowly, "Princess of Zeliara." Jacob blinked, not sure if this was real. Was this a prank? A dream? But the ship behind her, the hologram, her glowing eyes. This wasn't fake. "I need your help," she said, voice shaking. "Please, don't send me away." Max walked forward and sniffed her leg, then sat quietly beside her. Jacob sighed, rubbing his forehead. "I think I need stronger coffee." They sat in the garage. Hours later, Jacob made her tea. Though she didn't seem to like the taste, he listened as she explained slowly, using broken English mixed with gestures and visuals. She told him about Zeliara, the rejected proposals, the danger of war. She showed him pictures of alien cities, strange machines, and her people. She showed him a list of all the males who had refused her. Dozens of names, all crossed out. At the bottom was one word, written in glowing blue: human. "Why?" "Me?" Jacob asked finally. Leary looked at him, her eyes calm but tired. "You fix broken things," she said, "and I am broken." He didn't know what to say. He was just a man with a broken past and a box of tools. Not a prince, not a hero, just Jacob. "You need a husband," he said, confused. "No," she said. "I need someone to stand beside me, someone who doesn't see my size." She added, "Someone who sees me." He looked away. No one had said words like that to him. In a long, long time, outside, the night was not as quiet as before. 3 shadows moved through the forest. Tall figures with glowing red eyes and armor that shimmered like oil. They followed the signal from Leary's ship. They had come not to help her, but to take her back, dead or alive. Back inside, Jacob stood and paced. "This is insane," he said. "I don't know anything about aliens, or space, or royalty." Leary lowered her head. "Then I will go." She stood, stepped toward the door, but before her hand could touch it, Max barked again. Louder this time. Jacob looked at the screen on her ship, flashed red. "Motion detected," it said. Outside, something moved in the trees. Leary's eyes widened. "They found me?" Jacob didn't know who they were. But he didn't ask. He grabbed his shotgun from under the bench, loaded it, and looked at her. "Get in the truck," he said. She blinked. "You believe me now?" He nodded once. "Not sure I do," he said. "But I believe you." And with that, the human mechanic and the alien princess disappeared into the night, running from hunters. Running toward something neither of them could yet understand. But something had already changed. A bond was forming, and the galaxy had started to watch. The old pickup truck raced down a silent road. Its headlights cut through the fog like twin knives. Inside sat a human mechanic, gripping the wheel. And beside him, an alien princess clutching a glowing crystal behind them. In the shadows of the forest, something followed, something tall, armored, and silent. Jacob didn't know what was chasing them, but he knew it wasn't human, and it wasn't friendly. "Who are they?" he asked without turning his head. Leary's voice trembled. "Trackers. From the Empire of Dracon, they want to take me." "For ransom," she added. "Or worse." Jacob pressed the gas harder. The engine groaned but held. He wasn't used to being chased by space soldiers. But years ago, he had been hunted for different reasons. He had escaped before. He would do it again. They reached an abandoned gas station just before sunrise. Jacob killed the lights and rolled the truck behind the broken building. He grabbed a small metal case and opened it to yours, wires, batteries, and a strange cube Leary had given him. "What is this thing again?" he asked, holding the cube. Leary took it gently. "It's a translator and signal jammer. Helps me speak to you," she said, "and blocks them from finding us temporarily." Jacob nodded and connected it to a car battery. The cube glowed blue and made a low humming sound. For now, they were hidden. Inside the dusty gas station, Leary sat on the counter, watching an old fan spin slowly. "I don't understand humans," she said softly. "You live in broken buildings. Drive machines that burn and talk to animals." Jacob chuckled. "That's just life out here." She tilted her head, curious. "You live alone," she said. "But you protect strangers. Why?" Jacob didn't answer right away. He looked at the sunrise through a cracked window, then said, "Because sometimes strangers are the only ones who tell the truth, in orbit above Earth." A Draken ship hovered like a silver spider inside. 3 trackers studied the map. "Her trail ends here," said one, pointing to the green forests. The commander growled, "Split up. She must not bond with the human." The bond was sacred. If a human and a Zeliaran bonded, it could awaken something ancient, something the empires feared, something they could not control. Back on Earth, Leary studied Jacob's tools. She was amazed how humans built machines with scraps. No plasma, no crystal tech, just fire, wires, and clever hands. "You fix things," she said. "Everything except yourself." Jacob raised an eyebrow. "What's that supposed to mean?" She smiled gently. "Your heart is full of cracks, but still, it works." He looked away. No one had said anything like that since. Well, since a long time ago. Suddenly, Max barked outside. Jacob stood fast and grabbed his shotgun. "Stay down," he told Leary. But before he could reach the door, it burst open. A tall, armored figure stepped in, eyes glowing red. The tracker, Jacob, fired. The blast hit the metal armor and knocked the figure back, but didn't stop him. Leary shouted something in her own language and raised her crystal. It glowed, then pulsed, sending a wave of light that froze the tracker for just a moment. "Run!" she shouted. They raced through the back, climbed into the truck, and sped away once more. Behind them, the gas station exploded into flames. The tracker walked out of the fire, unharmed, but they were gone. For now, that night, under the stars, they camped near a river. Jacob sat by the fire, holding a small photo of a woman. Leary looked at it. "She was important to you, my sister," he said. "She died in a war one couldn't stop." "That's why I left everything," Leary nodded. "Now I know why the galaxy chose you. You carry pain, but also hope." He looked at her. "And what about you?" She smiled sadly. "I carry a crown I didn't ask for, but I wear it because no one else will." They sat in silence for a moment, just a human and a princess. 2 broken souls under alien stars, but the stars were watching and far above. Forces were moving. The tracker wasn't alone. More were coming, and soon. The whole galaxy would know the name of Jacob Hale, the man who said yes when everyone else said no. The night was colder than usual. Jacob sat by the campfire sharpening a long, rusted blade. Leary watched the firelight dance across his tired face. They hadn't spoken much since the escape. Both were thinking, both were afraid, but for different reasons. The stars above shimmered like diamonds, but one star was falling. A quiet sign that time was running out. Leary stood up slowly and walked to the center of the clearing she held. A glowing crystal in her hand, it pulsed like a heartbeat, soft and blue. "Jacob," she said. Her voice soft. "I need to show you something." He looked at her, eyes curious but cautious. She opened her palm, and a beam of light rose from the crystal. In it, images danced of ancient worlds, rituals, and glowing pairs of figures floating. "In the air, this is the bond," she said, "a connection between two minds. Two hearts. It is not just marriage," she added. "It is memory sharing, thought feeling, protection. And once done it cannot be undone." Jacob stepped back slightly. "That's a lot for a guy who just wanted to fix his truck." Leary smiled sadly. "I know it is too much, but I have no more time, and you are not ordinary." Jacob crossed his arms. "Why me, really?" "Because I helped you. Okay, any decent human would have." She shook her head. "No, many would have run. Many would have sold me. Many would have feared me. But you didn't. You didn't see a creature," she said, stepping closer. "You saw a person." He swallowed hard, the fire crackling louder now. "What happens if I accept?" "You will hear me when I don't speak," she said. "You will feel my pain, and I will feel yours. We will be one. Mind, split across two stars." Jacob looked down, then at the stars above. A long silence passed. Then he said softly, "And if I say no?" She blinked, just once, and whispered, "Then I'll go alone to face the Empire. They will kill me." The fire dimmed. The world held its breath. Jacob walked to her, slowly. Like a man walking toward a cliff, he looked into her eyes deep, glowing, tired, but full of fire. Then he said, just two words, "Do it." The crystal floated between them. Leary whispered in her own language. Jacob felt warmth in his chest, then cold. Then 1,000 memories not his own. He saw the golden sky. He felt her childhood loneliness, her silent cries. He saw himself through her eyes when he first touched the ship. And Leary felt something too. She saw war, desert sand, a broken body in Jacob's arms. His guilt, his sister, his silence, his rage and his heart. Buried under pain, tears rolled down her cheek. Not hers alone, but his too. The crystal dimmed. The bond was complete, but something was wrong. The air around them shifted, electric, heavy, alive. Jacob fell to one knee, breathing hard. His hands shook, and his eyes flashed with a faint blue light. Leary gasped. "It awakened? What?" he asked, sweating. "The ancient force buried in human DNA. Long ago, humans had been tested by old empires, altered, abandoned, and forgotten. But the bond unlocked that seed." Jacob stood slowly, stronger, calmer. His eyes now saw what Leary saw. The forest shimmered with invisible threads of light. He could feel the trackers, far away, watching. "They know," he said. Leary nodded. The bond sent a signal across the stars. "They're coming." Jacob looked up. This time, he wasn't afraid, not because he had power, but because he wasn't alone anymore. He reached for Leary's hand. Her small fingers fit inside his calloused palm like starlight in a storm. "Let them come," he said, and the fire behind him rose like a flame that had been waiting for years to burn. The stars were no longer silent. Somewhere deep in the void, old machines lit up. Long dormant sensors blinked to life, and a signal spread across the galaxy like a whisper wrapped in fire. It carried no voice, no message, only energy. Old and forbidden, the kind the empires swore no longer existed. But now, they knew, the human had awakened. Jacob didn't sleep that night. His body felt strange, heavier, and lighter at the same time. He heard things he shouldn't hear. a moth's wings in the dark, the heartbeat of a tree, the distant hum of a star above. He stood at the river, watching the moon's reflection shake in the water. Beside him, Leary sat cross-legged on a rock. Eyes closed, she was guiding him, but even she didn't expect what was happening. "Your body is changing," she said gently. "Your mind, too." Jacob nodded slowly. "Why?" Leary opened her eyes, glowing in the dark like twin comets. "Because humans were never what they seemed. Long ago, the ancients feared your kind." He turned to her, confused. "We were primitives," he said. "We barely reached space." "No." She said, "You were altered, enhanced, then abandoned. You are not behind." She added, "You were locked." Jacob touched his chest. He could feel something pulsing, not his heart. Something else. A second rhythm. Alien. And old. "The bond didn't just link us," Leary said. "It opened the code written in your blood. And now?" She looked toward the sky. "They will all come for you." In the shadows of a shattered moon, a warship shifted its course. Inside, a council of generals watched the data. "Human subject activated," one said. "Probability of power spike. Rising threat level. Unknown, then destroy him before it becomes known." On Earth, Jacob tried to walk like normal. But normal was gone. He could feel the weight of satellites above him. He could sense metal in the earth like threads of lightning. When he touched an old radio, it sparked and played alien music. "Leary," he said, one evening. "I'm scared." She looked at him, surprised. "Why?" "Because I don't know who I am anymore," he said. "I used to fix cars, hide from the world. Now the world is chasing me." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're still you," she said softly, "but now you're becoming who you were meant to be." They found an abandoned observatory in the mountains. It became their new hideout. There, Leary built a signal shield using parts Jacob salvaged from junkyards. She worked fast, but he worked faster. His hands moved, like they remembered things he never learned. He rewired alien tech in minutes, built tools from scrap. Even Leary stared in awe. "You've done this before," she said. "No," Jacob replied, "but it feels like I have." She watched him, a question growing inside her. "Maybe you're not just a man." One night, the stars above shifted slightly. Jacob looked up and knew without explanation. "They're here." "Who?" Leary asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he closed his eyes and saw them, 3 ships hiding in low orbit, invisible to radar. He could feel their engines vibrating through the sky, and in a way he didn't understand, he could feel fear coming. From them, that fear was real. On board one ship, a commander stared at the earth below. "We were told humans were weak," he muttered. "Now one of them can sense us through atmosphere and silence. He must not leave the planet." Another officer said, "If he bonds fully, he'll remember who they once were. And if Earth remembers, the galaxy will burn." Back on Earth, Jacob stared at his reflection in the telescope lens. His eyes flickered blue, then white, then back again. He touched his temple and whispered, "What am I becoming?" Leary walked up behind him, holding the bonding crystal. "Now dim but warm, you are becoming hope," she said. He looked at her, the girl no one wanted, the princess they all ignored. And he realized this wasn't just about power. This was about worth. The galaxy had rejected her, and now it feared him. "I didn't ask for this," Jacob said. "I know," she replied. "But sometimes destiny picks the quiet ones." He stood tall, looked out the window, and whispered, "Then let destiny come." Because the human was no longer running, he was preparing for war. For answers, and for the moment he would make the galaxy remember that Earth had always been watching, and now it was awake. The sky above Earth was no longer quiet. Invisible ships floated just beyond the clouds. Eyes from distant empires watched. One small planet with growing fear. Not because of its weapons, not because of its armies, but because of one human and one alien girl. In the mountain observatory, Leary stood near the window. Her silver hair shimmered in the moonlight. She wore the ceremonial robe of her people. It was the dress of a royal bondmate, a queen to be, but tonight it felt like armor. Jacob stood behind her, silent. His eyes now carried a soft blue light. Like frozen fire, the bond had grown stronger. He could feel her thoughts even before she spoke. And she could feel the storm inside him. "They're coming," he said. "Yes," she answered. "The Council of Empires will arrive in less than one cycle. They demand we cancel the bond." Jacob clenched his fists. "Because I'm human." "Because I'm you," Leary corrected, "and they don't want you and me to become one." Across the galaxy, messages flew like sparks through a dry forest. Zeliaran Princess has bonded with a human. Unregistered mail showing signs of forbidden awakening. Council emergency vote. Block or break the bond. Some worlds wanted peace. Others wanted control. But one empire, the Dracons, wanted blood. They sent a message to Earth's orbit. A single demand: surrender the human or face war. In Earth's upper atmosphere, the first warning came. Satellites blinked out, fried from energy pulses. Then the power grid in 6 cities failed at once. People saw strange lights in the sky. They posted videos, laughed at UFO jokes, but Jacob and Leary didn't laugh. They knew it was the opening move. Inside the observatory, Leary activated the beacon crystal. It projected a 3D hologram of the United Galactic Council. Dozens of alien faces looked at her cold, sharp, curious, and cruel. "The bond is illegal," said a voice like metal scraping stone. "A human cannot stand beside royalty," said another. "He is not one of us." Leary stepped forward, her voice clear and steady. "Then perhaps you are no longer worthy of ruling." Whispers erupted in the chamber. The human stood beside her, calm but burning inside. "I never wanted a crown," Jacob said. "But I will not kneel just because I'm not what you expected." One elder leaned forward, eyes glowing. "If you continue this union, war is guaranteed." Leary looked at Jacob. He met her eyes, and she saw the answer in his heart before. He spoke. "Then let them come," and come they did, within hours. 3 Draken ships descended into Earth's orbit. Weapons charged, orders clear: kill the human. Capture the girl, erase the bond. But Earth didn't stay silent. One hidden satellite, built long ago by a black-budget human program, responded. Its weapon wasn't nuclear, it was gravitic pulse. Reverse-engineered from ancient wrecks, and it worked. One of the ships went dark, falling into the sea like a dying star. The world had changed. Humans weren't primitive anymore. They were unpredictable, clever, and now connected. Jacob walked into battle not with armor, but with his own hands, enhanced by the bond. He could see energy paths, feel weapon charge times. He ducked, dodged, and struck with impossible timing. One Draken soldier lunged with a plasma blade. Jacob caught it mid-swing, eyes glowing. The blade fizzled in his grip. He didn't fight. With anger, he fought with purpose. To protect Leary, to protect the bond, and to show the galaxy what humanity was made of. By the end of the battle, 2 ships retreated. The third exploded in orbit. Earth watched in silence. The world governments still didn't understand what had happened, but someone had defended them. A man from nowhere and a girl from the stars. Back in the observatory, wounded but standing, Jacob looked at Leary, her dress torn, her face bruised. But her eyes bright. They had survived, but more was coming. "The galaxy still doesn't accept us," he said. "They don't have to," she whispered, "because I choose you." He took her hand, not out of victory, but out of something deeper: trust. Respect, love. The wedding was near, but before. The vows could be spoken. The galaxy would make one final move. And Jacob Hale would answer with the strength of two worlds in one body. The galaxy held its breath from the golden moons of Altorek to the icy rings of Kavarn. Billions waited, watched, and whispered. Not about armies or fleets, but about a girl too small to rule, and a human no one wanted in the ruins of the mountain. Observatory. Flowers now bloomed through broken stone. The war had passed. But the memory of fire still lived in the air. Jacob Hale stood in front of a mirror. Adjusting a dark tunic lined with silver thread, it wasn't armor. But it felt heavier than anything he'd worn in battle. Max sat beside him, tail still, eyes alert. As if the dog knew that today was not normal. Today was history. Outside, on the edge of the lake, a platform had been built from crystal and steel. Alien nobles, humans, and old enemies now stood together. The galaxy had been forced to listen, and now it had come to witness. Leary stepped forward from her ship. Her ceremonial robes moved like liquid light. She no longer looked like the girl who was rejected. She looked like a queen who had chosen her own fate. But her eyes still searched the crowd until they found him, Jacob, the mechanic. The one who never planned to lead, but led anyway. He walked to her slowly. No music, no royal trumpets, only wind and silence. And the sound of hearts beating. They stood together beneath the twin suns. The bond crystal floated between them, pulsing softly. It was no longer a symbol of politics or power. It was a promise. Leary reached out first. Do you, Jacob Hale of Earth, accept the bond not as duty, but as choice? Jacob looked at her, at the stars reflected in her silver hair, at the strength in her eyes, and said, I do. The crystal burst into a bloom of light, and across the galaxy, minds felt it, not pain, not fear, but unity. The Council of Empires, watching from their high towers, said nothing, for they could no longer deny it. This was real. This was strong. This was beyond bloodlines and borders. This was a new kind of bond. Later that night, by the lake, fires were lit. Alien guests danced in strange rhythms. Humans played music on broken instruments, and laughter replaced the silence of war. Jacob sat with Max by the fire, watching the stars. Leary joined him, holding 2 cups of something warm and glowing. This doesn't taste like tea, he said after a sip. She laughed. It's not. They didn't need to speak much anymore. They could feel each other's thoughts like shared wind. You could have ruled without me, he said. She looked at him, but I would have been alone. He placed a hand over hers, and now we rule together. In the months that followed, Earth changed. It was no longer seen as a backwater world, but as a place of awakening. Galactic visitors came not to conquer, but to learn. Humans were invited into the Union, not because of wealth or weapons, but because one man had stepped forward when no one else did, and one princess had believed when all others had turned away. Jacob never wore a crown. He wore his old jacket and boots. He still fixed machines when they broke. But now he also helped fix something much bigger. The galaxy's broken trust in what it means to be different. In a quiet moment, aboard the royal cruiser heading to a new world, Leary leaned on his shoulder. Do you ever miss the old life? She asked. Jacob smiled. Sometimes, he said. Then I remember I'm married to an alien queen, and my dog's eating food made from stardust. She laughed, softly, and the stars outside their window twinkled in reply. The galaxy had turned the page, not with war, but with a wedding, not with a throne, but with a choice. And somewhere, deep in the stars, a new legend was born, of a princess everyone rejected, and a primitive no one expected. Together, they changed everything.